Join us live on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM or the VTRN Sports app. Open VTRN Sports on your smart speaker or stream live on YouTube. Time to get ready for your day with the morning warm-up with Trey, Lyle, and Ty Tracy.
7:03 on this March 6th, Thursday, March 6th, to be specific. Ty Tracy here. No interns today, Ty, so you have to run the board. I'm sorry, you can't just chill in the back.
Nah, it's all cool. It's all cool anyway.
Well, you're excited. We'll have Bryson Gordon on. Possibly. Will he be awake? You have to tune into that.
Give him a hard time.
We'll also have Alix back for his regular Thursday spot. So we actually have a big, in case you missed it, so we got to get right to it.
Yep.
Keeping up with sports 24/7 takes some serious effort, especially when you're sleeping. Don't worry, the morning warm-up stays alert around the clock. Now here is everything you missed last night.
Let's just say this is to get you to go. Going over the latest headlines from last night, starting in the NHL, Alexander Ovechkin nets his 885th goal, only now 9 behind Wayne Gretzky, 10 to make the record in a 3-2 win for the Washington Capitals. Couple deals in the NFL were announced. The Philadelphia Eagles are re-signing All-Pro linebacker Zach Bond to a 3-year, $51 million contract. Deal includes $34 million guaranteed at signing and an additional $1.5 million in incentives. This is after making the highest paid running back in the NFL. The Eagles make Zach Bond one of the highest paid linebackers in the NFL. Couple cap casualty moves. Chargers announced they are releasing Joey Bosa Wednesday night, and the Seahawks announced they are releasing Tyler Lockett. Speaking of the Seahawks, a name we brought up earlier in the week talking about Deebo Samuel, who I think would be a better option for Washington, I guess can't be now, is the Seahawks star receiver DK Metcalf has requested a trade and prefers to be dealt to a contending team, and it appears that is possible. Other moves in the NFL, Dak Prescott's cap number has been adjusted because the Cowboys are finally using their brains, and the Cowboys created $56.6 million in cap space because of restructuring contacts of Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. So maybe the Cowboys will actually make moves, or all that money will go to Micah Parsons. Bears, after trading for Jonah Jackson, now have traded for All-Pro Joe Thuney for a 4th-round pick in 2026. Not this year's draft, next year's draft. And it's simple. They need to protect Caleb Williams. They get 2 elite guards. Jonah Jackson actually played for Ben Johnson in Detroit. Obviously, Joe Thuney was a serviceable left tackle. He got destroyed in the Super Bowl, but the entire Chiefs offensive line did. So I'm not overhyping that as well. Other headlines as well. I'm just trying to run through these and then we'll break them all down. It is announced, it's going to be announced today that Jai Lucas, the assistant head coach for Duke, will be named the next men's head basketball coach at Miami. Official announcement expected this morning. He will leave for the team. This is interesting, at the end of the regular season. So basically he'll start on Monday or Sunday because they play Duke. Duke Carolina is on Saturday. He's helped obviously recruit Cooper Flagg among the Boozer twins, who are top recruits in the 2025 class as well. And he is part of the 27-3 Duke team that is, if they beat Carolina on Saturday, be the number 1 team in the country. Interesting news in boxing. Turki Al-Rashid, who's the chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority, on Wednesday announced the creation of a new boxing league alongside TKO, which is the UFC and WWE parent company. So it'll be alongside Dana White and WWE president and former agent at CAA, Nick Khan. Essentially, the name of the new organization has been revealed, but they are bringing kind of the UFC model to boxing, is essentially what it is. This could change boxing forever as a whole. So we'll see. If it produces bigger fights and more bigger fights, because I think they're supposed to have 4 super cards, they say, a year. I think the first one will be Canelo versus Terrence Crawford, which, yes, I would love that. NASCAR decided, hey, let's just dump all the news we possibly could in one week in one day, and they did that yesterday. So starting with a countersuit by them. They have countersued 2311 in front row and have named Michael Jordan, Curtis Polk, among others, as they have willfully violated the antitrust laws by orchestrating anti-competitive collective conduct, basically saying what they're doing is illegal. We'll see how it goes. They threw out a lot of damning stuff yesterday, so it's just we'll see. They're gonna sling mud at each other. NASCAR's goal is to not get to Discovery, and we'll see if they can accomplish that. In NASCAR, other NASCAR news: Chase Briscoe did win his appeal for the penalty he got at Daytona. So the panel believed that the elongation of some of the holes on the number 19 car spoiler base is caused by the process of attaching that specific spoiler base to the rear deck and not a modification of a single source part. Basically, JGR did nothing wrong. In interesting news, NASCAR ruled that Austin Cindric intentionally right-hooked Ty Dillon, but did not issue a suspension. Instead, they docked him 50 points and fined him $50,000. NASCAR felt the slower speed of the road course and the lack of caution / severe damage made it not suspension worthy. So going a little bit against the grain there. Other news and notes, we'll go with some scores from last night, starting in the NBA. Cavs 112, Miami 107, Donovan Mitchell with 26 and 7, Bam Adebayo 34 and 12 for Miami. Celtics are still good. 128-118 over the Trailblazers. Peyton Pritchard drops 43. Derek White also scores 40 plus. So how about that? T-Wolves beat the Hornets. Hornets keeping their mission going. 125-110. And then the Wizards actually won a basketball game, Ty. 12th win of the season. They're 12-49.
I ain't gonna lie, I was proud of them. I'll say it feels good getting win, but after that, we're going back to reality.
I'm about to hit you with some all-time tanking names. They beat the Jazz 125-122. The leading scorer for the Utah Jazz, UCLA and March Madness legend Johnny Juzang.
Oh wow!
Alex Sarr leads the way for Washington. Again, continue to hug a Mavs fan. They lose 137-107. Nuggets beat the Kings 116-110. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander drops 41 in a 120-103 win for the Thunder. James Harden drops 50 in a 123-115 win for the Clippers. As for men's basketball, starting in the Atlantic Coast Conference, Clemson defeats Boston College 78-69. Louisville beats Cal 85-68. NC State somehow keeps their ACC tournament hopes alive with a win over Pitt 71-63. And Notre Dame defeats Stanford 56-54. As for the top 25, upset last night. Ole Miss gets the win over number 4 Tennessee 78-76. Number 5 Florida goes on the road and defeats number 7 Alabama 99-94. Texas Tech, the number 9 team in the country, cruises to a 91-75 win over Colorado. Number 12 Wisconsin 74, Minnesota 67. Number 13, Maryland defeats number 17, Michigan, 71-65. Number 15, Missouri falls to Oklahoma, 96-84 in a game that Oklahoma desperately needed for the NCAA tournament. And UConn. It's weird to not see UConn ranked these last couple of years, but they're not. But they do defeat number 20, Marquette, 72-66. All right, Ty, I went over a lot.
Yes, you did. A lot.
It was a lot.
Hey, you got everybody caught up, though. That's the good part.
That's the point. So first thing, obviously staying local.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Ovi. He is now, there's a real shot he could get this year. So he's 10 away from breaking the record. But Joey Bosa, do you think if you're Washington, is Joey Bosa the type of guy you go after? And I would assume you can get him on a fairly manageable deal.
I'll say what surprised me, I ain't gonna lie, I'll say this about the Chargers. I thought they would release Khalil Mack.
They probably will release both. Last year,
they keep Joey Bosa. That's what I thought at first, because Joey Bosa is more younger and everything, but he's getting up there.
Bosa's 20. Bosa's 29. He had 5 sacks last year. I think Max also me. Mac was also, I think. Let's see. And then Khalil Mack is obviously 34. And he had 6 sacks last year.
So that's why I thought at least like get rid of Khalil back. But if I was Commanders, I'll try. I could see them going after Joey Bosa.
You should kick the tires on it, at least.
Yeah. I mean, Joey Bosa could provide you a good some pressure up front. They definitely need some on the edge. But the only thing Joey Bosa probably go ask for some more money, but he knows his age up there. You're not worth you think he is no more and everything. Now, young Joey Bosa, yes, but right now, you can get fair minimum pay with him, like a 1-year deal.
Yeah. The only thing is, it's similar to the moves you made last year, except Bosa's 29.
I'm not saying he's old or nothing.
I mean, I think at this point he's probably wanting to stay in California. I think he's gonna be a 49er. That's my gut. Just to go play with his brother.
I mean, that could be a good choice too, because
that just makes it makes sense. Like for him, I think Shefty indicated there's a real shot he could go play with his brother.
I mean,
yeah. All right, but so I get again. We talked about the Deebo Samuel move.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably going to have to give up more to get DK Metcalf, and you would have to sign him to a new contract.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, DK's in his prime. So that was my thing about, is Deebo the best you're going to get? Because I think DK is better than Deebo.
But he's more reliable because he doesn't get hurt or anything. Deebo always get hurt, middle season, they probably miss several games and stuff. And I think... Excuse me, I'll let you go ahead. My bad.
I was just checking their age. So DK's 27, Deebo's 29.
I think he'd be a better outside threat as well. You definitely need an outside threat to get some pressure off of Terry McLaurin. Just in case he probably take the double coverage DK Metcalf.
So we'll see. I mean, I would not be shocked if Seattle doesn't I've always thought, why would Seattle trade him? It's the same thing with these Geno Smith things. Unless they want a full reset and think they can get Arch Manning,
now
assuming Arch is
what team you think it would be fit for DK?
The Chargers.
You think?
Yeah, I think the Chargers want a big wide receiver.
Yeah, I could.
That's why there's a lot of Devontae smoke with the Chargers. So I think it's
okay. Yeah, I could definitely agree with you on that. I could definitely see him fit with the Chargers.
So, shout out to the Bears. The Bears have realized, hey, if you build a good offensive line, you can do great things. And hey, they have good tackles. Their interior offensive line was awful.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could have blocked better.
Yeah.
And so getting Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson.
Yeah, I think that was a great move by Chicago. That was a great move by Chicago.
And I know focus on the Jonah Jackson got benched last year. Rams played him at center. Mm-hmm. But I trust Ben Johnson, who was the OC when Jonah Jackson was a guard for the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
That they'll get that right. If you're a boxing fan, keep an eye out on this move for TKO. I think they're putting things together. It will be interesting to see how it all shakes out. The NASCAR news, to get more of my reaction to it, we recorded it last night with Tom Bowles, Bring the Heat with Brian Nolan, hosted by Trey Lyle because it was Brian's birthday. So I reacted to that. So we'll save some time because we got Bryson coming up in a couple of minutes. So we need to get to today in sports history.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James.
Many doubted we'd ever see it. But here it is. The return to glory.
It's time for Today in Sports History.
Seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
They go length of the court with Archie Diacono. 3 seconds at midcourt. Jenkins gives it to Jenkins for the championship.
Let's hear what Ty really knows about what happened on this day in sports history.
Yeah, Ty, let's see what you know. All right. Starting in 1964. Yes.
The year my dad was born.
Well, we'll see if you know this. This legend changed his name after joining the Nation of Islam.
Mm.
So you have to give me both versions. He was a boxing legend. There's your hint.
Muhammad Ali.
And his first name was? We've been over this.
I know. I can't remember. It's like Cash.
Is Clay.
I knew it was Clay though. Like I said last time, you didn't say that.
Contarious Clay or something? You
Could
did.
carry his song. I was like, I know it's Clay.
Cash is Clay.
Yeah.
But he changed his name to Muhammad Ali. All right. You get a half point there. All right. Moving to 1983, and then you have one more.
Okay.
This 12-team football league was founded beginning its first season with 5 games. It's not the NFL.
USFL.
Oh, good job. I was shocked you got that.
I did a history project on that one.
All right. Now,
that's where the legends came from.
This Virginia school beat North Carolina Wilmington 35-33 in the second lowest scoring game in the shot clock era of NCAA basketball. So you just think of the state of Virginia.
And what year is this again?
2001.
2001. Ooh.
This Virginia school. We have talked about this school recently when they had a big game against a school in Richmond. There we go.
In Richmond?
Yeah, the school is not in Richmond, but they played a team in Richmond in a big game recently.
I know it's not VCU.
So who did VCU play? Because that was the team we talked about. So they're in the A10. There's 3 Virginia schools in the A10.
George Mason.
There we go. I got you there. I held your hand there. George Mason beat North Carolina Wilmington 35-33. And then the final one. This is a 4-parter.
Okay.
LeBron James passed this man for 4th all-time in the NBA scoring list on this date in 2019.
You got, if I could get the list right by order, I know it's not MJ.
Are you sure?
MJ.
There we go. Yes, it was Michael Jordan. Because it's LeBron, Kareem, Wilt, Kobe, Michael Jordan.
Yeah. At first I'll go say Kobe, but I was like, no, it's not MJ.
No, it's all right. Well,
come on now.
Come on. Oh, that was today in sports history. All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, will Bryson Gordon be awake? I guess you have to stay tuned to the break.
He better be awake.
Oh,
he better be awake.
Tie with a threat. All right. Thanks so much for listening to Morning Warm Up 721 on this Thursday, March 6th.
We are making it happen at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years with the best selection, value, finance options, and exceptional service. Plus 900 pre-owned vehicles all in one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. The Used Car Superstore is your one-stop for most makes and models. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Plus, Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is easy on the Motor Mile with finance options for every budget. 900 used vehicles in stock now. More than any other dealer in the area. Hurry in for straightforward pricing and more inventory arriving daily. Why wait? Make it happen at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier family-owned car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER-1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Are you a property owner looking to maximize your investment? Tired of the day-to-day hassles of managing your rental properties? Welcome to Brownstone Properties, where we take the stress out of property management. From tenant screening to maintenance and everything in between, we'll ensure your property shines.
Hello there.
Visit brownstoneproperties.com and come by our office, 3720 Old Forest Road in Lynchburg.
When shopping for auto liability insurance, it's wise to consider the best policy, not the cheapest. Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. It's crucial to have more than the minimum insurance on your auto liability policy. This protects you if you injure someone or if someone without proper insurance hurts you. Having the right policy ensures you have sufficient underinsured coverage to take care of you and your family. To learn more how we can help you navigate these challenges, visit us at trostlaw.com. That's trostlaw.com.
When you're voted one of the best plumbers according to Lynchburg Living magazine, you want to hire the best. Sullivan Plumbing wants the best plumbers to join our award-winning team. Do you have a clean driving record? Do you have at least 4 years plumbing experience? Then you're a 5-star recruit, and Sullivan Plumbing would love to meet with you. Take the first step. Call Sullivan Plumbing in downtown Lynchburg or email sullivanplumbing@gmail.com.
Depressed about your favorite sports team? Well, VTRN Sports is presented by the perfect relaxing beach house vibe. 801 Raw Bar on Church Street in downtown Lynchburg.
Good morning. We are just getting your day started here on VTRN Sports with the morning warm-up. Stay connected with the show at Trey Lyle VT and Ty Tracy 90 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen wherever you are with the VTRN Sports app or watch the show live on YouTube at youtube.com/VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, back to the morning warm-up.
7:24 on this Thursday, March 6th. Now, Ty, anything you want to say before we start? Because he's here. Bryson Gordon, newsadvance.com.
I'm kind of disappointed in him right now.
Oh.
But right now, I'm going
Why?
to give because he did not show up this morning, actually yesterday morning. And he could
He showed up this morning.
I mean, this morning, yeah, but it was yesterday, though. He know he's on Wednesdays. I'm kind of disappointed, but guess what? I forgive him, though.
I will say this.
I have a heart. I forgive him.
We did have to change his. We did have to change his time yesterday. So
Okay.
he was up. He was up by the time his normal slot was,
Mhm.
based off of when he texted me.
But it's okay, though. I
But-
forgive him.
But it's okay. It happens. This is not the first person or the last person that will oversleep an alarm clock. I think
Yeah.
all of us here have done this. So
Yes.
we will move on. Bryson Gordon, newsadvance.com. Starting first, I know we're going to talk a lot about Liberty, but I do want to talk about high school basketball real quick. Only one area team heading to a state semifinal. That's the EC Glass boys. They're heading to face possible future commander Tyler Warren's alma mater, Atlee. Shout out to the 804. Shout out to Mechanicsville, Virginia. You know, the possible hometown of Trey Lyle. You know, I did not go to Atlee. I went to Mechanicsville High School. But EC Glass got a big game on Friday against Atlee. How does the team feel about its chances to possibly head to the state championship game?
Yeah, they're excited. I think at the beginning of the year, had you asked of the boys teams in the area, who's the team that's most likely to go to the state semifinals, maybe even the state finals? It's probably EC Glass. You know, we talked to them. We had the first ever Seminole Media Day this year, and their players were so adamant. You know, the ones that were remaining from the team that went a couple years ago to Richmond, when Omandre Harris was the star player of the Glass team, and kind of went along for the ride that time. They were like, you know, we're ready to have our own turn at this. Like, we're ready to be the star players of the team that goes to states, not just the guys in the background. And if you've seen Glass play, they don't really have a go-to guy. Jertavius Osborne was the Dogwood player, or excuse me, the Seminole Player of the Year. He isn't necessarily the guy that just completely jumps out to you when you watch them. They're really, really good, some of their parts, and they're an incredibly coached team. And I think they have a legitimate chance of beating Atlee. Atlee's lost maybe once this year, but the way Glass plays, they really control the pace. They don't have big guys, but they make up for it with their rotation of bigs who can really handle 5 to 10 minutes at a time. And so I think that this Glass team is poised. Like I said, they're well coached. If there's a team from the area that is deserving of representing the 4-3-4 in this, I think Glass is probably the best team from the area we have this year, which is sad because we had some good teams that fell out of the tournament on Monday.
4-3-4 versus 804 Friday night. All right. It's the battle, my hometown versus my new area, I guess.
Should you recuse yourself from talking about this? Can you handle, talking about this fairly?
I luckily did not go to Atlee, so I can root for EC Glass because Atlee was one of our rivals. So
nice. Well, can you still talk about it fairly? Do you hate Atlee too much?
I don't hate Atlee too much. So luckily, if it was Virginia, maybe I could have to recuse myself. But I think I talk fairly enough about the Virginia Cavaliers, despite being a Virginia Tech grad. But let's work backwards, and I'm going to use the Virginia Cavaliers as a transition. So it was last Thursday. There was an interesting shot of Tony Bennett on the sideline, right behind the Liberty bench, at a Liberty basketball game. Obviously, he's got a lot more free time on his hands now that he is resigned from the head coach at UVA, and Ron Sanchez has had a better second half of the season. Not saying I think we've been fair here and saying we are not 100% confident he will maintain his job. And then all of a sudden, this time of year, coaching, there's a lot of connections to Virginia. And Richie McKay gets announced as an extension between 2030 and 2031. So, first question: do you think old Tony Bennett did his pal Richie McKay a favor by showing up and creating maybe some smoke, air quotes around smoke, and ultimately, what does this deal mean for Liberty and locking up Richie McKay for the rest of the 2020s?
Yeah, as far as the Tony Bennett stuff, possibly, you don't want to sit here and say, "Oh man, he went there and put the pressure on Liberty to lock him up," because he's another one of Bennett's guys, and Bennett really kind of installed Ron Sanchez up there at UVA, kind of as the interim. So maybe he wants to do the same as Richie McKay. I think Richie kind of squashed that this week when he talked about how much he wanted to be at Liberty and the extension. People have criticized Richie McKay a lot this year, especially after the Kennesaw game. People have criticized how he builds his team with his two guards who are short. They're small. There's no way around that. They play hard. But people have criticized McKay, and my only question to them is, if you want Richie McKay gone from Liberty, who's your better option, right? Because this program before him was largely not irrelevant, but mostly irrelevant on a national stage. And people weren't coming into the first week of March talking about Liberty before Richie McKay, and now they have a chance to go win the Conference USA championship in their second season. You talk about the turnaround that he had from last year to this year. They were a middle of the pack team last year in the league. It's not like they were, a team that lost a bunch of close games. Maybe they did lose some close games last year, but they really weren't fit to compete in Conference USA with the roster they had. And so if you want a perfect example of a coach coming in and turning things around in a modern style, he brought in 4 transfers and one who has missed this entire year, and Josh Smith, who's going to be active next year. But he brought in some transfers who have been big pieces. Isaiah Enon would have been just as big of a piece to this year's team had he stayed healthy. And so to see him really transform this roster in the transfer portal era, after having all these years of winning in the normal era of building your program through high school and keeping guys for 4 years, to see him do it this way now, it kind of validates, if you have a high opinion of him, that he can do it in any era, which means he probably would have been a candidate at UVA had it gotten to the offseason and had Sanchez not been retained. And so I'm not saying he would have been the top candidate. I think that another coach in Virginia is probably that, and Ryan Odom. I think if I was the AD at UVA, he'd be my first call. I wouldn't even hesitate. But I think if you're a Liberty fan, you need to feel good about having Richie McKay at the head of your program, not only because he's a great spokesman, but also because he's a really dang good basketball coach who turned this program around, not completely turned it around in a year, but really turned it away from a middle of the pack team into a top of the line Conference USA team.
No, we need, because they're not going to hire Rick. We need Richard Pitino so we can get Rick Pitino in UVA gear. Just come on, folks. Let's get this done. Okay. I'm just saying. That was
in a white suit with fans that.
With some orange pinstripes. I'm telling you. It won't be Rick Pitino for obvious reasons. That's why I'm saying Richard, but I also agree. I think Ryan Odom, who is not a bad choice. And especially what he's doing at VCU this year. VCU is the best team in the state. They're top 30 in net. So that definitely, I think Ryan Odom. Ironically, I don't know how UVA fans will feel about it, given he is the head coach that beat them as the 16th seed. But that's a conversation down the road. And we don't want to, give a guy. Ron Sanchez still has the job right now, so we don't want to, we don't know what's going to happen. UVA could go on if that NC State team last year won the ACC tournament, this Virginia team could easily win the ACC tournament. Don't think it will happen. Yeah. I think the team at the top, Duke, is better than any team in quite some time we've seen in the ACC, but keep working backwards. So we've gotten through, I think, Tuesday. Now we're on Sunday now. Kennesaw beats Liberty 85-80 in a game where Liberty was up in the first half, then down big in the second half, and tried to storm back late, but ultimately fell short. Ultimately, this seems like a tough loss for Liberty, loses control of their destiny of getting the 1 seed, but ultimately we have a game tonight. They have a game tonight against Middle. If they win, they basically will be a top 2 seed. But what concerned you from the game against Kennesaw that ultimately resulted in the loss for Liberty?
Yeah, I think the one thing that's concerning, and Liberty hasn't had a whole lot of these this year. You can track Evan Maya is one of the many metric websites out there that track this kind of stuff. And Liberty hasn't had a lot of runs. He calls them kill shot runs, where a team goes on a 10-0 run of more, and kind of basically it's the ending of the game kind of run. Liberty allowed one of those to Kennesaw. They haven't allowed many of them, but they allowed one to Kennesaw in the game this past weekend. I don't think that's necessarily the problem. Is allowing kind of runs like that. Liberty's allowed some runs, but I think what's key is limiting them this time of year when these games late are going to matter. Obviously, middle tonight, Western Kentucky, on this weekend, and then the conference tournament next week. These games are going to be close. We've seen Conference USA games come down to a handful of points. When teams go on their runs, especially with teams like Kennesaw who have elite guards and Cottle and Woolley, and there's some other teams who have some really good guards in conference play. What's going to matter for them is limiting these opponent runs from maybe 12-0 or 10-0 into let's cut this into 10-4, or maybe cut it to 12-4, and cut these windows down where opponents are going on these huge runs. Liberty would have won the game right on Sunday had they just limited it and not let it get up to 14. The Kennesaw lead up to 14. Liberty was leading so much of the first half, and Kennesaw really shot their way back into it. When teams do that kind of stuff, when you can control the damage and mitigate that a little bit this time of year, that's what is most important. And we saw, they cut it to 1 on one occasion late in that game. And so it's just managing those stretches where the offense isn't clicking. We've seen Liberty's offense be great for a half. We've seen it be great for 3/4 of a game. We've seen it be great for the whole game. But it's not going to be great for the whole game this time of year. If it is, you could pretty much pencil them in to win Conference USA. So in those stretches where the offense isn't picking it up, the defense has been amazing this year, but it's really just cracking down on making sure that those runs don't get quite out of hand. And maybe it comes down to calling a timeout. Maybe it comes down to getting the 2 guards in Porter and Matheny out, and swapping them out for some length, and maybe cooling off some of these guys with a guy like Javon Moffmer, who's been incredible on the defensive end. And so I think just limiting these runs, it sounds so easy, right? But just limiting these runs once they happen for other teams, and not letting them get out of control, because we know Liberty can come back from some margins late. It's just keeping games within reasonable margins is going to be what's important for them.
Looking at tonight against Middle, how important is it to get the win? I don't know the tiebreakers off the top. I barely know I barely understand the ones in the ACC for the 8-9 between Virginia and Virginia Tech right now. But ultimately, I guess it would be 9-10 in Virginia Tech, to correct myself. But if they win tonight, they will be a top 2 seed, right? That's essentially it. And so how important is tonight?
It's huge. When we talked to Richie McKay earlier this week, after he was going through his extension stuff, I asked him, and I think I may have gotten on his bad side by asking him, but I was like, hey, is there a difference between a 2 seed or a 3 seed in this conference tournament? Because obviously, if you have a top 2 seed, you play on, I think it's Wednesday, then you have a day off, and then you play and finish off the tournament. Yeah. And then he got very upset. He got very upset saying, I don't want to get in trouble with Conference USA by giving my thoughts on our bracket, but he basically said it's the craziest bracket, of all the mid-major programs now, because they don't really benefit the 1 and 2 seeds. They don't really send them off into the semifinals like they do in the I think it's the Sun Belt that has a crazy bracket, and the West Coast Conference has a crazy bracket. And so when you don't benefit your top 2 seeds, maybe it doesn't matter as much. But I do think it matters for Liberty in this case, because we've seen them kind of get tired in the second halves of some games with their 6 or 7 man rotation. Xander Yates is usually that 7th man. He didn't really play a whole lot against Kennesaw. Gabriel McKay was kind of the 7th man that night. And so I think having a day off would be huge for this team. It would break up a 3 games in 3 day stretch to 3 games in 4 days. And that'd be crucial. I don't necessarily know if there's a big benefit to the 1 or 2 seed. Obviously you get this late in the year. People say early in the season, winning the conference, regular season doesn't matter. I think when you get to early March and you have a chance to do it, I think it means a lot for your program to get it done. And so I think the tone would change on that coming into this last week. I think they do value winning the regular season championship, and perhaps maybe it's so much kind of up in the air with how the bracket falls out that I'm not sure, who the desired opponent would be in the first round for Liberty or in the second round. But I think the best thing to do is focus on winning, because when you win, it takes care of everything else. So if you lock in on winning a regular season title, everything will solve itself.
Yeah, I guess the best way to describe it is it's a double bye technically, but they split it up. So it's like you have the play-in games, then the top 2 seeds play, then they have an off day. The rest of the other quarterfinals happen, and then you have the semis.
It's still confusing. It doesn't make no sense.
And it doesn't. in my opinion, it does not benefit the 1 and 2 seed because boom, your 1s and 2 seeds hit the court, they play, they get the day off. Well, your lower seeds don't have the day off. They're still in rhythm. And so maybe you have a 1 seed who shoots a lights out in game 1, or maybe a 2 seed does it in game 1. And then you got to sit out a day. And you got other teams who are playing and staying loose and getting ready. And maybe Liberty finds something in the first game and they got to take a day off, and then they come back in the semifinals and lose because they're a little bit rusty to a team who has their feet underneath them. So I don't think it benefits the 1 or 2 seed, but I think in Liberty's case, they still would like to have the day off just because of how much they focus on really playing 6 or 7 guys.
In the words of Avril Lavigne, why do you got to make things so complicated? Moving now, we're still working our way backwards now. Now we're on Saturday. All right, the spring game happens, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. You had to be, with Ty.
I was with Ty Tracy. It was a good day.
And with Ed. Of course. And with Ed.
Ed is it.
We got to dive deep in the offensive line earlier this week with Phillip. I think he, former offensive lineman with Liberty, I think he gave some good perspective on that unit. So I want to ask you about the offensive line. I want to ask you about, obviously, the headliner, the one that will get you the most clicks, quarterback. Your thoughts on the quarterback performances, and then is there maybe a leader in the clubhouse you felt like in terms of who will be the starter come fall?
Yeah, I think it was surprising to see Michael Merdinger, the UNC transfer, roll out with the 1s on the first kind of drive series, whatever they were calling it in the controlled scrimmage. It was number 7 Merdinger from North Carolina who rolled out with the 1s. I thought that was interesting. I would have assumed it would have been Vasco. Maybe he was throwing a little loop, throwing everybody for a little bit of a loop on the spring game, just because you can do that. It's so early on. But I think, and Ty will probably say this as well, the quarterback showed some good things. The quarterback showed some, bad passes. I think there were even Jamie Chadwell mentioned afterwards he thinks his guys struggled with accuracy a little bit. It was a windy day, not to give anybody some excuses, but there were some really bad throws on some out routes. There were some difficult throws, even to the middle of the field for some of the guys. But I think the one quarterback who kind of stood out was Vasco. Just thinking back on some of the touchdowns he had. He hit Casey Kane late in the day. He looks like the guy who's going to be the starting quarterback. Maybe in the fall, Merdinger continues to develop and picks up something and plays even better. But I think some of the throws Vasco made were probably the best of the day. I mentioned the one late in the day to Casey Kane. He had another touchdown earlier in the day that was a deep shot also. I think that one was to Juju Gray that was kind of in the wind. And so I think Vasco seems to be maybe the leader in the clubhouse after the spring game. Obviously, I think Ty will say this too. The environment really lended itself to offense. I mean, there were offensive players with no contact jerseys on, a wide receiver. So, they catch it. You can't really hit them. You can't bring them down. It made things easier for the offense to move around. But I think at the end of the day, I think Vasco is a guy who looked a little bit a step ahead of Merdinger. And obviously, freshman Ethan Houck, I mean, he showed he can run. He showed he's got an absolute big arm. We'll see how he develops. But I don't know necessarily if he's going to have much of a say in this season's competition. But I do think Vasco is a guy to keep an eye on going forward.
Ty?
I also say with Bryson, I think their biggest issue, I told Bryson, I think their biggest issue is probably interior running back and maybe the skill position on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think the receiver talent is actually it might be a little better than last year. This Casey Kane guy from UNLV, and he spent time at Texas also, really good. He got a late start to fall camp, and he's been a really good downfield threat. We saw it in the spring game. Jamari Person is somebody coaches have been raving about. But you're right about running back. I mean, you look at the running back room, and there's no Quentin Cooley. There really is no Billy Lucas. And Juju Gray was a wide receiver last year, and he's going to be running a lot, getting a lot of snaps at running back. Caden Williams is a strong back, and he ran, I think, 14 carries for about 50 yards over the full season last year. But there are going to be questions about this run game, especially for how great it was last year. Bill Durkin, I'm sure Philip Doss talked so much about how much of a great coach he is, but I think Bill Durkin's going to really transform this offensive line. It's a question of if the backs behind it can really continue the effort that Quentin Cooley and Billy Lucas had last year is going to be what's key for the run game.
At Bryson Gordon on Twitter, follow along as he covers the Liberty Flames as they have a big game tonight against Middle Tennessee, and then Western on Saturday. They head on the road. We'll talk more about the Lady Flames, who are in you could argue even bigger game tonight as they are heading for first place in Conference USA against Middle straight up. in a game tonight. So that's another big game tonight. But we got to get to Andrew. So thanks so much for waking up this time, and we appreciate you joining us.
Appreciate the second chances. I won't do it again. Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks. That was Bryson Gordon. When we come back, we'll have Andrew, Alix, VT Scoop talking Hokies next year on the morning warm up. When the thrill of playing ball turns into the agony of a broken windshield or car window, contact Apple Auto Glass. Your local auto glass repair shop on Allegheny Avenue in Lynchburg, Apple Auto Glass provide a professional assessment with the honesty from your neighbors, so you can get back to sharing the great moments this season. The Black Crows, Mount Joy, Government Mule, JJ Gray and Mofro. Need us to continue? Paul Coffin, the California Honey Drop, Larkin Poe. And that's just a handful of acts performing at Floyd Fest 25 Aurora, July 23rd through 27th at Festival Park in Floyd. Ticket prices increase April 1st. So get your tickets now at floydfest.com. Winner of the Best Music Festival, even more acts to be announced soon for Floyd Fest 25 Aurora. So get your tickets now at floydfest.com before prices increase April 1st. We're here with Colt from We Fix Stupid Computers. Colt, to go along with your residential or individual walk-in services that you offer, you also do a lot of business IT support. How about you discuss that, and what specifically do you do to help businesses in the area?
We see a lot of that. Small to medium-sized businesses, they still have their IT projects. They still need resources to help them within their office and for remote users. And so we'll step in and fill in the gap where we do a lot of projects for them, help them manage their resources, their budgets, and get their technology under control.
Colt, how can these people reach out to you to assess their IT needs?
Call us. Our number is 434-525-8590. Our website, wefixstupidcomputers.com. We're on Facebook. And our office is here locally, 14690 Forest Road, right next to Scott's Cabinet on 221.
Do you have a sports card and memorabilia collection?
Wow.
Did you inherit one? Not sure what to do with it? BNC Sports has been your local hobby store for over 30 years, and they'll provide their professional assessment and can cash you out. No collection is too big or too small, so don't drop the ball. Stop by the mall or give us a call. BNC Sports, the game starts here.
When you're voted one of the best plumbers according to Lynchburg Living Magazine, you want to hire the best. Sullivan Plumbing wants the best plumbers to join our award-winning team. Do you have a clean driving record? Do you have at least 4 years plumbing experience? Then you're a 5-star recruit, and Sullivan Plumbing would love to meet with you. Take the first step. Call Sullivan Plumbing in downtown Lynchburg or email sullivanplumbing@gmail.com.
Good morning. We are just getting your day started here on VTRN Sports with the morning warm-up. Stay connected at Trey Lyle VT and Ty Tracy 90 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen wherever you are with the VTRN Sports app or watch the show live on YouTube at youtube.com/VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, back to the morning warm-up.
Ooh, 7:47. I dragged that out because it was like 7:46:58 when we did it. I wanted to drag that out because there's no point in saying that. So 7:47 on this Thursday, March 6th. And now joining us freshly, well, I was going to say sun-kissed off a cruise, is Andrew Alix at Andrew Alix Radio on Twitter, VT Scoop, Hokie Hangover Podcast. Joins us, and we haven't had him in a few weeks, so we're going to work a few weeks in time. Buddy, thanks so much for hopping in this morning. Glad to have you on as always.
It's good to be back in the morning warm-up track.
We are now, we can have your reaction to the official hiring of Philip Montgomery as the Virginia Tech offensive coordinator. The veer and shoot, I'm assuming it's his offense, the veer and shoot is coming to Blacksburg. What were your thoughts on that?
Trey, we all complained a little bit about the lack of experience on the defensive side of the ball, right? How we replaced Chris Marr with Sam Stepkus, who really and truly and frankly didn't really have that big differentiator that everyone was looking for. So it's hard. And if you're going to complain about Philip Montgomery, like, you can. But if you were complaining about lack of experience on that side of the ball, Trey, well, Philip Montgomery has that. He got it with RG3. He had it with Case Keenum. And, yeah, I mean, he brought that through even at Tulsa and into his 1 year at Auburn. So if he fails, it's not going to be due to lack of experience, which, frankly, in this year, if you're Brent Pry, I think you need someone who can learn the job on the fly. So I would give it given the circumstances, of course, like an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10 from Andrew Alix. Okay. Sticking with football for a moment, now that the coaching staff is set, it seems they're bringing in more player personnel guys, and then spring practice is right around the corner. What is something you want to look at or see from this team as spring comes along?
Primarily, I want to see how the offensive line, the running back position, and then, of course, the receiver room shape out. Like, we know who the quarterback's going to be, right? I mean, it's Kyron Jones, unless he decides to run for the hill. So, who are receivers 1, 2, and 3? What's that permutation on the offensive line? Because, as we know, frankly, they have got huge, splashy senior level, transfer to come in and say, all right, this is going to be the guy that runs the group there. So I'd be curious to see how that looks, Trey. And I'd also be curious to see, frankly, what the offense looks like. As you mentioned, the veer and shoot, or whatever they call it with Phil Montgomery. How different is that going to be from what Kyron Jones is used to running? Is that going to be more to his benefit as a player? So really a lot to look for. But Trey, I'll turn the question on you. You see a lot of programs canceling the spring game. Is Trey Lyle for or against that?
I'm just for an event where you can bring fans together. It's always been a fun event. I mean, as a student, you can attest, we attended maybe like 50% of those games at best. And because it was just a party weekend excuse. But I think the fact that Virginia Tech, since Brent Pry has gotten there at least, has tied it obviously to the April 16th weekend is when they do it, and everything that goes along with that. I think it's now become more ingrained with the Virginia Tech community. So I think you keep some sort of event. I get the kind of the why, like if it's going to be on TV and your players can get poached right after the game, like if this freshman running back shows flashes of, excitement, and you can't necessarily, a bigger school could come in and get him. So I actually get, I get the why. I think there still should be an event to kind of showcase your talent. Yeah, I'm very interested. And by the way, you call it the veer and shoot because you can't call it the Bryles offense because, Art Bryles and everything that went with that. That's why people call it the veer and shoot because, you can't really, that Bryles and Baylor.
Yeah, Art Bryles not necessarily the number one guy that you want to honor on any given day, right, Trey?
Yeah, you don't want to. Again, what he did at Baylor was wrong, but his offense is one of the most innovative things that we've seen in recent college football memory. I can separate those, folks. All right, separate those. All right, moving to the hardwood now. Obviously, Virginia Tech inconsistent in terms of the win and loss column of late, but I want to talk about, obviously, the retention of Mike Young, the increase in NIL, but the emergence of the freshman Ben Hammond, the sophomore Jaden Young. They have these younger players over the, Jaden Shutt has had a really good season. Obviously, Toby Lawal being the leading scorer for this team as a junior. They can all come back next year, theoretically. What have you thought about the development of this young talent throughout the season and their constant improvement, despite, the drubbing by North Carolina in their last game?
Yeah, Trey. I mean, there's a lot of pieces that Virginia Tech has to work with here. And I'm curious to see, again, what percentage, if any, returns to the Hokies next year. With Babcock, it's going to need to show a serious investment in the, frankly, game of basketball from an NIL perspective in order to not only keep these guys on the roster, but improve upon, that group around them. So I'm curious to see how that all goes down, Trey. But you bring this group back with a year of improvement, with hopefully an influx of talent in the transfer portal. And I don't think it would be too unfair to say, hey, look, high end of our expectations next year is the NCAA tournament. So, Mike Young, who's not going to be fired apparently, despite what his haters want, showing his prowess as a coach and hopefully setting things up for a good year to come.
Yeah, his haters. By mean you can refer to our great friend, good old Jimmy Cleveland. Shout out. But you look at this Virginia Tech team; they're going to make the ACC tournament. They obviously, I don't have high expectations for their game on the road against a really good Clemson team on Saturday. So there is an all in likelihood they have a real shot, depending on what happens with Virginia and who's ahead of them. They're going to play on that first day of the ACC tournament. But the fact that at one point when they lost, was it 5 straight games, 6 straight games, they were blown out in their first 2 ACC games. Your thoughts on the fact that this team has resurrected itself and gotten it to ACC play?
I mean, look, the team lost to Jacksonville at home by 10 points. This team is obviously not the team that we thought we were going out with this year. Even Mike Young in last March, you guys like Sean Padula, who are now starters on Ole Miss, who apparently is like a national television every day worth team. It's going to be a top 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. All gone overnight, just like that. And then you have the controversy with the kid from Temple, and that was supposed to be your top scorer. So again, if you're going to criticize Mike Young because the team, doesn't have a winning record or a chance to make the NCAA tournament, you're missing the plot. And I think it'll be really interesting to see if he can bring this talent back, how much of a step forward they take, and what that means for expectations going into next year. But again, pretty good coaching job by Mike Young this year, given the circumstances.
So, do you have faith in Mike Young still? Have you, you mentioned the haters, and we know a few of them who have complained about Mike Young, and I think you and I have been kind of rational in terms of balancing the criticism of Mike Young versus, the tangible resources he's had. Do you think that ultimately it was the right decision? Bring him back and, continue to improve this young roster?
Yeah, I mean, again, Mike Young, it's like the W you know versus the W you don't, Trey, right? Mike Young has won an ACC tournament. Mike Young has made the NCAA tournament a small handful of times. It is not Mike Young's fault that they gutted his NIL budget to the point where it was impossible to compete. They haven't given him a fair chance at success in this new era of college basketball. Now, whether Mike Young is the coach for this new era of college basketball, Trey, that remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, you got to give them that chance, because they were far more competitive than you'd expect them to be, given the circumstances this year. Because it is hard to overstate how much Mike Young was put behind the 8-ball when they're just like, oh, yeah. Like, yeah, it turns out the amount of money that we were allocating you for NIL is like a seventh of what you actually need. And, you didn't have enough time for a quick turnaround there. So, yeah, I mean, like, give Mike Young the resources. Give him another year. And plus, with all this, house settlement stuff, I don't think Virginia Tech or really any school is in a position to just be, like, paying people by it. So, excited to see Mike Young back.
At Andrew Alix Radio from VT Scoop and the Hokie Hangover podcast. Of course, check them out also with the Inside the Tunnel podcast, a part of the VT Scoop. Buddy, I appreciate you spending some time with me this morning, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks. Always a pleasure to be on the morning warm-up with Trey and Lyle.
Thank you, sir. That was Andrew Alix, and I think he offered some great points. We touched on it when Mike Young was announced he's come back. I think it was clearly the right decision. He got the most out of this team. Ty, it's definitely something in which I'm interested to see with the more NIL, which I think because of the house settlement, they're naturally, which that's having its own hurdles. But let's assume it goes through. That they're going to have more money. You want to keep your Jaden Youngs, you want to keep your Ben Hammonds, you want to keep your Toby Lawals, and then you're going to have to add a big man. You're not going to have Elijah Poteet or Bo Burnham, or Ben Burnham, excuse me, not Bo Burnham. That's a comedian. I think over time, like I'm all in on Mike Young. He's won 400 games. Like,
plus the team,
400 games.
Like the team has been improving this whole season. And everything, It's just a lot of ups and downs. I think they'll improve a lot next season.
Same thing with Virginia. We can talk more about this tomorrow when we pick games. They got impossible hands at the start of the year, and they're going to be one of them is at least going to be a single bye team.
Listening to the morning warm up on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM W227 BG Timberlake and 1320 AM WVGM Lynchburg.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.